William of Tyre spent his final years documenting a history that most of you now only recognize through a Hollywood lens. As the Archbishop of Tyre and Chancellor of the kingdom, he stood close enough to King Baldwin IV to hear the young ruler's voice crack under the physical weight of leprosy. His account of Balian of Ibelin does not begin in a French village with a grieving blacksmith staring at a dead wife, but instead introduces us to a powerful baron. This Lord of Ibelin married Nerea Comnena, the widow of King Amalric I, a move that made him stepfather to the royal heir and a man capable of shifting the crown between rival heads. This was not a simple tradesman discovering his morality, but a high-ranking noble protecting his family's claim on absolute power. The film constructs a fable of moral clarity out of whole cloth to suit modern tastes. We see a blacksmith who kills his brother, loses his wife to suicide, and flees toward Jerusalem carrying his guilt like a pilgrim's heavy cross. He finds his faith in the desert and earns a knighthood through vague acts of decency, eventually becoming the singular conscience of a doomed kingdom. William of Tyre never describes such a man, writing instead about the succession crisis of the 1180s, where Balian backed Raymond of Tripoli against Guy of Lusignan. There was no tortured conscience or glowing forge in the primary record, only the cold-blooded calculation of a man who held his estates by keeping the right enemies at a safe distance. The scenes featuring the Leper King are pure invention, yet they are the moments audiences seem to remember most vividly. We see Baldwin IV's masked face and hear his whispered wisdom as he accepts an oath of service from a peasant who happened to wander into his court. William records a very different Baldwin, describing a warrior who governed with a necessary severity and fought at Montisard, even as his hands were already rotting away. He did not spend his final days dispensing gentle philosophy to lost strangers, because Balian was his vassal by birthright rather than cinematic conversion. Their relationship functioned entirely within the machinery of feudal obligation, and it had nothing to do with personal admiration or modern friendship. The defense of Jerusalem in 1187 is the one sequence where the film actually brushes against the historical chronicle. Balian did negotiate with Saladin, and he successfully prevented a total massacre by threatening to destroy the city's most holy sites. However, the screen version erases the reason he was even present to negotiate in the first place. He had escaped the disaster at Hatton as a lord with his full retinue intact, not as a grief-stricken everyman who had lost his world. His bargaining was a display of strategic leverage rather than saintly self-sacrifice. And when he told Saladin he would level the dome of the rock, he was simply a man who understood exactly what his enemy valued. Saladin himself is rewritten as a rational mirror to the Christian fanatics, which provides a 21st century comfort that the primary sources do not support. This idea that the Sultan was a secular gentleman who just happened to wage jihad is a modern projection. William never hesitated to describe him as a formidable enemy who took Jerusalem by siege, and the chivalric conversations where Saladin and Balian trade lines about mercy never appear in the Latin text. William wrote about a kingdom that tore itself apart while a disciplined enemy waited at the gates, and he did not produce a morality tale where both sides were equally noble. He recorded what happened when feudal lords stopped honoring their obligations and started betting on the wrong kings. The real loss here is not biographical, but structural. The film recasts feudal obligation as personal angst and replaces blood loyalty with a blacksmith's spiritual journey, swapping the grim logic of succession for a fable about tolerance. William of Tyre recorded a world where birth determined duty and duty determined survival, but Hollywood prefers stories where the right feeling redeems the wrong station. That choice erases more than just dates and names, as it obscures how the Crusader states actually functioned and why they eventually fell. The primary record is still there waiting for you, provided you are willing to let go of the fable.